Welcome to sj'sclasses, everyone, and to yet another session on your paper, Art and Literary Aesthetics, which is the complementary paper prescribed by the University of Kerala for BA English Language and Literature students in the second semester. We discussed a few writers and artists who were connected with the movement called surrealism. Through this video lesson, you will be introduced to an artist who would give you a true taste or experience of this movement called surrealism. This video lesson will introduce you to the artist Salvador Dalí, who is perhaps one of the most celebrated artists of all time, and will also give you an overview to the short film titled Destino, which was a joint venture by Walt Disney and Salvador Dalí. Before we move into the overview, let me give you a brief introduction to this artist. Salvador Felipe Jacinto Dalí y Dominic was a Spanish surrealist painter and printmaker. He was born on May 11, 1904 in Figueres, which is a small town outside Barcelona and located 16 miles from the French border. His artistic output includes painting, graphic arts, film, sculpture, design, and photography, and also collaboration with other artists. He also wrote fiction, poetry, autobiography, essays, and criticism. He was an artist who was strongly influenced by movements like Impressionism, Cubism, Surrealism, and other avant garde movements. But it is said that two events that helped him mature his artistic style are his discovery of Sigmund Freud's writings on the erotic significance of subconscious imagery and his affiliation with the Paris Surrealists. Most of his works incorporates a sort of dream sequence in which he often portrays hallucinatory characters. He improvised a technique to bring up the images from his subconscious, and he described this process as paranoiac critical. This was his major contribution to the surrealist movement. Through self induced paranoid state, Dali tried to tap into the subconscious state. He would then hand paint dream photographs from what he had witnessed and finally create works of vastly unrelated yet realistically painted objects. He believed that viewers would find intuitive connection with his work as the subconscious language was something which was universal. What the artist who followed this method called paranoia critical did was they tried to engage in a pure form of art making that had not been sterilized or affected by social norms or insecurities. From 1929 to 1937, he produced the paintings which made him the world's best known surrealist artist. Perhaps the most famous of those images is The Persistence of Memory, which was done in 1931, which is regarded as one of the most famous surrealist paintings. He painted this when he was just 28 years old and the surrealist movement was at its height. The painting shows melting clocks in a landscape setting. This is quite typical of Dali's method of painting the familiar in an unfamiliar way. With the Spanish director Luis Buñuel, Dali made two surrealistic films. One is An Andalusian Door that came out in 1929, and the other is The Golden Age that came out in 1913. And these are similarly filled with grotesque but highly suggestive images, something which is very typical of surrealist paintings. Andalusian Dog's subject matter was so sexually and politically shocking that Dali became infamous, causing quite a stir with the Parisian surrealists. In 1940, he moved to the US, where he remained until 1955. While living in the US, Dali devoted much time and much of his work to the public and self publicity. During this time, many of the pieces he created revolved around religious themes. One such work was Christ of St. John of the Cross, which he painted in 1951. In 1955, Salvador Dali left the US and made his way back to Spain. Although a majority of the work which Salvador Dali created were paintings, he also created sculptures, design in jewelry, illustrations for various books and book series, and he also did a series of work for different theaters and different shows which were performed in the theaters. He died on January 23rd, 1989 in Figueres, which is his hometown. Now, something which will contribute as an additional knowledge. There are two major museums devoted to Salvador Dali's works. One is the Dali Theatre Museum in Figueres, Spain, and the Salvador Dali Museum in St. Petersburg, Florida. These are the two places where you get to see Dali's contributions to art as well as literature. Now, let's move on to the short film. Destino is a 6-minute animated short film released in 2003 by Walt Disney. It was directed by French animator Dominique Monferry and produced by Baker Bloodworth. The songs in the movie was written by the Mexican songwriter Armando Dominguez and it was performed by Dora Luz. Destino in Spanish means destiny. The film was originally a collaboration between Walt Disney and the surrealist painter Salvador Dalí. The film features the tragic love story of Kronos, the personification of time in pre Socratic philosophy and later literature, and a mortal woman named Dahlia as they seek each other out across surreal landscapes. The production of this film began in 1945, which is 58 years before its completion. It was the financial pressures caused by the World War II that forced the delay. And finally, the film was completed in 2003 by Walt's nephew, Roy E. Disney. To make the animation as authentic as possible, Disney Studios brought back one of its most influential artists to complete the short film, and he was none other than John Hench. John Hench was respected even by Walt Disney as one of the studio's most gifted artists. And Hench also acted as Dali's main collaborator during the original production in 1946. The studio recruited him at the age of 90 to finish the project he began decades ago, crediting him as its co author alongside Dali. The final product was premiered on June 2nd, 2003, at the Annecy International Animation Film Festival. It was nominated for the Academy Award for Best Animated Short Film and won titles in the Chicago, Rhode Island, and Melbourne International Film Festivals. The movie is full of photorealistic visuals where objects break or melt away, landscape morph into one another, and the body of Dahlia undergoes drastic transformations. It begins with Dahlia approaching a sculpture of a man with a large cloak at his side. The man and cloak are intended to represent Kronos. Throughout the movie, Dahlia is surrounded by objects that melt or break, meaning that she does not have luck in finding someone to share her life. She is also seen in different scenes dancing through several of Salvador Dali's paintings, which convey false hope. Kronos is shown a few minutes into the film and is held back by a clock, evident that he cannot escape time because he possesses it. The awareness of symbolism of time affects the life of Kronos, which then takes a toll on Dahlia. When he sees Dahlia, large walls erupt between them, forcing the two further apart. Dahlia's mortality and Kronos' immortality limits their chances drastically for even ever being together. In the last minutes of the film, Dahlia becomes what appears to be a bell and fixes herself into the hole of the heart in the sculpture which was shown in the beginning of the film. Kronos again takes the body of the sculpture then, therein being that he and Dahlia will part eternally. Now, as you watch the film, you would witness styles and themes which are clearly connected with Dali in the movie. We see that the lover's face melts off, Dali adorns a dress from the shadow of a bell, and also becomes a dandelion. Ants crawl out of a hand and become Frenchmen riding bicycles, and not to mention the turtles with faces on their backs that collide to form a ballerina or the bizarre baseball game. So you find a lot of instances where you can actually experience surrealism or surrealistic art in this short film. I'm sure that this movie will definitely give you a taste or experience of what surrealist art is. So that is all regarding the movie and the contributor who is Salvador Dali. Thank you so much for watching this video lesson. If you would like to access other video lessons which I have done on this paper titled Art and Literary Aesthetics, you can use the playlist that has popped out now. Thank you so much for being with me.